Babes in Spyland. The Truth Hurts. Episode 10. Agent Smith bolted after Rob Harker. She didn't bother to holster her gun, which probably contributed to the screams from the crowd. Movement from the other end of the stage caught her attention. Agent Smith trained her weapon on the figure, ready to yell for them to halt, or whatever, until she recognized Agent Milkshake's. Red-faced and breathing hard, Milkshake's skidded to a stop mere inches from the trap door. Agent Smith joined her and pointed. He went down the hole. Both agents peered over the edge into the darkness below. Milkshakes grabbed her phone and shook it a few times. A beam of light burst from the corner of the device, shining below to reveal an oversized pillow. So oversized that you could fit a car inside of it. Down? Agent Milkshakes asked, cocking her head to one side. Agent Smith nodded, already not looking forward to the landing, even if the term pillow top could be applied. Black Turtle, Agent Milkshakes bellowed over the sound of the crowd. Take care of things here. We're going in. A grunt sounded, and Agent Smith had to assume that was Black Turtle agreeing. Milkshakes jerked her head for Agent Smith to go first. Taking a single breath, figuring that overthinking it would only cause problems, she stepped forward, kept her arms by her side, and fell through the hole, bending at her hips so she would land sitting down. The distance looked shorter from above, but the airbag, or whatever you called the thing, caught her like a towel commercial, cushioning her fall and folding in around her for a moment before it reinflated. It shouldn't have hurt, but her painkillers couldn't completely mute the impact, even if it was soft. Agent Smith climbed off onto a wood floor and looked around. 2 doors stood on opposite walls. No footprints in dust, broken cobwebs, or light streaming from a hallway beyond allowed her to speculate on which way Rob went. Milkshakes climbed off the cushion and came to stand next to Agent Smith. Since there was no indication on the direction they should go, Agent Smith said, "Split up?" Milkshakes held up a hand. "We should go over the rules." "Rules?" Agent Smith asked. Considering the alarming lack of professionalism so far in the super-secret agency, she wondered why there were suddenly rules. "Yes," Milkshakes nodded. "Such as?" Now Milkshakes pointed at her. "Don't do anything too stupid." Agent Smith waited for more, but her partner turned her attention to the nearest door. "Wait, that's it?" Agent Smith asked. "Yup," Milkshakes jerked her head. "I'll go this way." "Hold on." Agent Smith dug a small container out of her pocket and handed it over. "Smear this under your nose. The science guys claim it will diminish the effects of the scents." "Thanks." Milkshakes applied the cream, then grinned. "Let's catch a bad guy." Super secret agents were officially crazier than the people at the FBI. Agent Smith moved to the door on the far wall and pressed her ear against it. She'd hoped to hear Rob, but all she got was silence. The brass knob was cool under her fingers. She slowly turned it until she heard a low click. Still nothing from the other side. The hinges squealed as she pushed the door open. Not quite loud enough to wake the dead, but close. It seemed the time for stealth was over, so Agent Smith rushed through, her weapon ready and her eyes searching. The light from the previous room spilled through after her, casting an elongated Agent Smith-shaped shadow down the empty hallway. There was no sign that anyone had been through in the last few minutes. She took a breath, flinched at her complaining body, and began a silent walk along the old wooden floorboards. The scent of mildew rose in her nostrils, along with the faint odor of lilacs. Rob Harker. He had to be in front of her. The hallway went straight for 15 feet before turning left at a 90-degree angle. She plastered herself against the concrete wall, sidled to the corner, and peered around with one eye. A door stood at the end of the short corridor. Dim light glowed through cracks around the frame. Agent Smith crept forward, keeping her weight on the balls of her feet, and crouching low. A single, mournful squeak came from the floor about halfway to her destination. Agent Smith winced and picked up her pace. A shadow moved on the other side of the door, and Agent Smith was almost there when it burst open. She dodged to the side, hugging one wall. A man, tall, broad, and every inch a minion, came at her, hands outstretched like he was trying to catch a running cat. Agent Smith let him get close enough to bat his arms away and kick him in the groin. The man went down, howling. The light from the open doorway faded, and Agent Smith automatically trained her gun on it. Something came hurtling toward her face. All she had time to do was turn her head. What felt like a heavy throw pillow hit her in the ear. It had enough force to take her to the ground and leave her vision spinning. An old vanilla smell entered her nostrils, and before she could scramble to her feet, a pair of large hands grabbed her by the arms and pulled her upright. Wait, make sure she sees me first. Agent Smith blinked. What? Her vision, which consisted of a fuzzy middle and black edges, cleared just enough for her to see Rob Harker's leering grin. She'd never noticed how beautiful his eyes were before, or the chiseled edge of his jaw, or the sexy way his mussed hair lay across his forehead. He smiled. Her knees went weak. Good thing the muscle-bound lackey was holding her up. There we are, Agent Smith, wasn't it? I was hoping to see you again. Rob Harker stepped closer and ran a finger down her cheek. A line of fiery desire erupted within her. She needed to feel his lips on hers now. She grabbed Rob Harker's shoulders and pulled him to her. Whoa, easy. Rob gently pushed her away and grinned at the man behind her. I had no idea this stuff worked so well. Agent Smith glared. The man holding her, along with the goon lurking behind Rob, were distractions. They had to go. There were more ways to escape from a hold than Agent Smith could ever remember. She focused her mind on the first one she recalled and executed it. Step 1. Grab the wrist. Easy. Step 2. Twist around him, keeping a firm grip on his arm as she did so. Several popping noises sounded. Step 3. Continue around until the man flipped over. Done. The second minion tried to step around Rob Harker, but Agent Smith beat him to it. She darted to the side, kicked the man hard in the knee, ribs, and then face. A satisfying crunch accompanied the last, and the guy went down in a heap. That hadn't even got her breathing hard. Agent Smith turned on Rob Harker. He stood with his beautiful eyes wide and his mouth hanging open. Her eyes fixated on his mouth. Those lips. She really wanted his lips, but part of her was still sane and reminded her that she had a job to do. It's not like she'd never kissed a man in the line of duty before, but this wasn't going to be pleasant. Enough foreplay. She grabbed his tie and yanked him forward. There was nothing romantic about the kiss. It was all feral need. This wasn't going to get her what she wanted. His shirt was in the way, so she ripped it open. Buttons hit the floor in a flurry of mini clicks. For a moment he didn't react, but her body pressed up against his was apparently enough to provoke him. His hands began to explore, and he returned the kiss. Your lips taste like sugar, he muttered. She felt around his chest, then his waist. He bit her lip, and she almost pushed him away, but not yet. Not until... That's what she'd been looking for. She retracted her hands, coming away with the man's cell phone and a packet of pouches. A bright light came on, hitting Agent Smith in the eye like a hammer. She jerked back, and because Rob Harker's arm was around her waist, with his hand rubbing her butt, she elbowed him hard in the ribs. He stumbled, wailing and holding his side. People ran into the room from 2 different directions. Someone was yelling orders, but Agent Smith couldn't get her head clear enough to understand it. 2 men grabbed Rob Harker from behind, and she almost laughed at the look of complete confusion on his face. The 2 men shoved him onto the ground, nose first. Maybe a little harder than necessary. One of them looked up. Agent Bigfoot's eyebrows were knit together in concern. Agent Smith managed a quirky smile. Nice timing. She held up the phone and the little pouches of smelling salts. The salts that presumably kept Rob Harker from succumbing to the truth scent he used on his contestants. Again, according to the science guys. Agent Black Turtle cuffed a still waiting Rob Harker and laughed. Your lips taste like sugar? He asked Agent Smith. The science guys gave it to us. She shook her head. Even with the gel on her lips and under her nose, the pheromones were still trying to tell her that every man she saw had Hunk as his middle name. Agent Milkshakes squatted down next to Rob. Now, Mr. Harker, where is Sci-5? The man launched a vicious glare at the woman and didn't answer. Agent Black Turtle yanked him up from behind, forcing Rob to his knees. I believe the lady asked you a question. Black Turtle said, grabbing Rob's tousled hair so he couldn't look away. Go to hell, he said. Milkshakes looked at Agent Smith and shook her head. So unoriginal. Pathetic, Agent Smith agreed. She retrieved the candle from her hospital room out of her pocket, lit it with a lighter she'd brought, and moved next to Rob Harker. His glare didn't alter, and he said nothing, as she knelt beside him and stroked his cheek. The smoke from the candle drifted toward him. Will you tell us where Sci-5 is? No. What if he's in trouble? You're his friend, aren't you? That guy is a freak of nature, he scoffed. His little test tubes and computers are his friends. It was actually working. Looking back, Agent Smith was certain that Mudd's tirade and divulging of sensitive information had been caused by the candle. It had to have been the truth scent, which had worked right up until Mudd snuffed the flame out. Even Milkshakes and Black Turtle had been affected. After all, Bigfoot had said he'd never seen them flirt like that before. So you're not worried about him? Agent Smith asked, keeping her hand on his shoulder. Nope, I don't care where they took him. That drew a frown from Bigfoot, who stood just behind Rob. She wanted to ask who they were, but she decided to focus on one thing at a time. Did they tell you where they were going to take him? To church, Rob Harker said. Agent Smith frowned. Was that some sort of code? She glanced over at Milkshakes, who shook her head. Which church? The same one they've been using for a month. Maybe she could get who he was talking about out of him. Who? Rob Harker closed his eyes, and his head twitched. Who? Who? His words came out as a whisper, hardly clearing his lips. Who's been using the church? Agent Smith asked. Rob twitched again, but this time a shudder ran through his entire body, and Black Turtle had to use both hands just to keep the guy from pitching forward and face-planting on the floor. Cluck, cluck, Rob said, slurring his words. Cluck, cluck. His eyes rolled back into his head, and he slumped forward. Cluck, cluck? Milkshakes looked at Black Turtle, who shrugged as he and Bigfoot lowered Rob to the ground. To church? Agent Smith asked. How many churches are in this city? Who's to say it's even in this city? Milkshakes asked. Security guys from the theater handcuffed Rob's bodyguards, and Agent Bigfoot stepped away to call a team from SSA. Black Turtle rolled the prone figure of Rob Harker onto his back. You broke him, Milkshake said to Agent Smith. I didn't hit him that hard. Black Turtle leaned down and put his ear right next to Rob's nose, looking at his stomach. After a moment, he shook his head. This looks more like a drug overdose. Get that bow tie off his neck, Milkshake said. I wouldn't be able to breathe in one of those either. It's a cravat, Agent Black Turtle corrected her, unfastening the small button and untying the ruffly cloth. As he did so, a chain from around Rob's neck caught in a bit of lace, pulling a silver cross out from inside his shirt. A silver cross with wings and the initials RH engraved on it. Agent Smith blinked. She looked at Agent Milkshakes, who stared back, wide-eyed. The church, they both said together. What? Black Turtle asked. The woman ignored him, and Agent Smith said, Butterfly had a cross like that, only big, and there was one on the set of The Truth Hurts. Some of the people Amphibian Queen and Bunny Nose were interrogating the other day were wearing some just like that, Milkshakes pointed at Rob. Yeah, I saw that too. Milkshakes narrowed her eyes. Those people were all spilling their guts about their past crimes. Agent Smith nodded, as if they'd been smelling the truth scent. Agent Black Turtle's head moved back and forth as the two women played a game of verbal tennis. I'm lost. As usual, Milkshake said. Do we know what church that was? Agent Smith asked. I got it, Agent Milkshake said, fingers already dialing. What is it? Agent Bigfoot asked as he looked back and forth between the two women. Agent Smith held up a hand for him to wait. Agent Milkshakes took a breath. Dispatch, this is Agent Milkshakes, SSA Agent 38250. She paused while the person on the other end of the line verified her identity. Agents Amphibian Queen and Bunny Nose are investigating a bunch of people who all go to the same church. I need to know what church that is, now.